tutorial is going to teach you how to use the built-in 3D features of After Effects. Drag the 3 resources for tutorials files in there. And we're going to start with the this electrical blast one, drag it down to make new comp. And we're also going to say the layer new solid, and we're going to make a white solid. That's going to go at the bottom. And drag the other 2 energy blasts in, put them above the white solid, so you've got everything in this order. Now what we're going to do is shrink them down, because we're going to just have a play with the 3D stuff. So click on the first one and grab a corner and drag it till it's about that big. Do the same with the next one. Might have to move it out to the side. And last of all, we have this one in the back. And now you can see why I wanted a white solid in the background, so you can actually see what's going on. Right, just position them sort of like so. Now it's time to add some 3D effects. So to enable 3D, you've got to check this little box down here for each layer that you want 3D to apply to. So I'm going to do it to these 3. You'll notice when 3D pops up, you start getting this X, Y, and Z axes. Now you can move stuff in 3D space. Now, it's kind of a little bit hard to do sometimes, but if you move your mouse and get the little Z icon, you can go forwards or backwards. And I'm just going to go back a little bit, and then I'm going to move this one back a little bit, and then I'm going to put this one forward a little bit. Now it's a little bit hard to sort of do it accurately from this view, but thankfully you can change your view. So see active camera here. Now we can change all our views. So I'm going to go from the top, because this is a good way to position things. And if I scroll out a little bit, you can see where they all are in sort of 3D space. So if I highlight them all, I can move them all, and then they'll sort of fit where I want them to be. So this is a good way to more accurately position stuff. So I'm just going to go like this. So now they're all sort of staggered like steps almost. Now if I change back to my active camera, they're all behind each other. But you'll notice they're not quite vertically aligned, and that's something we can do if you really want to using the green arrow. But I'm kind of happy with that. Okay, now it doesn't really look like much until we start getting some 3D happening, and the way to do that is to say layer new and grab a camera. And I'm just going to pick this standard one here that comes with it, 200mm, press OK. You'll notice when you click it, your view will change slightly. That's because now we are from the perspective of the new camera. Okay, from here we're going to just do a really raw effect, which is camera orbit, which is this one here. If you hold down your mouse on the camera tool and click that, or you can just click C and it will cycle through the different types of camera tools. We want the orbit camera. And now if we just do this, you can see we've got some 3D stuff happening. If you just click and drag. Now you can see that it's not really that 3D because they're paper thin. That's just sort of how it is. Alright, if you don't like what you've done with your rotation, just press undo and we'll go back. Now of course you can always keyframe your rotation, which is the way you get sort of camera movement in your video, and we're going to do that a little bit later. But for now we're just going to have a look at some other settings. So I'm just going to position it like that, and if you go to your camera option here in the drop down transform, if you hit reset, it'll go back to how it was. So all your rotation stuff, as you can see, is changing all that position statistics down here, figures. So if you want, you can always reset them very easily by pressing that button. But I'm going to leave it like this because this is sort of what I want. And now I'm going to go layer, new, and pick light. And I'm just going to show you guys After Effects can actually see, shadows and stuff. So I'm going to go with this spotlight. There's a few different types, but I'm going to go spotlight. And you can see that it's already starting to cast some shadows. I'm going to move it back using my normal selection tool. And you can see that the light is shining onto our stuff. So if I pan this thing around, you can see where the light's shining, and if I move it behind, you see that won't work yet unless I enable the cast shadows option on my 3D settings here under each bit of footage. So if I go to, the easy way to do this is to select all 3 and then click on the drop down, material options, and then cast shadows on once that's been selected for everything, we can go back to our light, and as we move that around, you can see that the shadows start being cast on the things that are behind. So you can see the shadows being cast depending on the position of the light. Anyway, you might have some use for it, but for this tutorial I don't really, so yeah, I'm going to kill that light now by pressing delete on it. And now we're going to move into another 3D effect. Alright, now it's always nice to have some point of reference for your 3D, so we're going to make a new layer once we click down here on our timeline. And we're going to make a solid. It doesn't matter what color it's going to be, but I'm going to make it red. Because we're going to drag an effect onto it that's going to sort of override it. So if we go to effects and presets here, and it's going to load raw, there we go. And we're going to type in particle world, and we're going to go with this CC particle world. This effect gets used a lot, but it's kind of useful for what I'm showing you, so I'm going to do it anyway. Drag that onto your red solid, and you'll notice it overwrites it, and now it becomes this funny little fountainy sparkle thing. We're going to rename that by right clicking, and we're going to call it dots. Okay, from here our happy little dots are going to get changed. I'm going to try and make them into sort of floating things, and to do that you've got to change these settings over here. So I'm going to go to producer, and I'm going to change, not that one, the radius X, Y and Z. I'm just going to pump them up, and I'm going to make it 0.5 for that one, 0.5 for this one, 0.5 for this one. So now you can see they're sort of just taking up lots of space. And if you want, you can make it a little bit bigger than the footage by dragging the corner, so that it sort of has some, takes up all the space. Now I don't like these dashes, I actually want to have something else, so I'm going to go to particle, I'm going to change it from line, and I'm going to just pick this faded sphere thing. And these colours look ridiculous. I'm changing that to light blue. That looks so much better. Not really. I'll make that sort of another blue colour, sure. Alright, now we've got these blue little dots everywhere. And if we use our 3D rotation tool, now you might notice this annoying little table showing you the floor and the X and Y axes. That's useful when you're making stuff, but later on you don't want to see that. So if you go up here to grid lines, you can just uncheck them like so, and then you won't see any of those boxes anymore, and now it'll just be there by itself. Alright, now if we play that, you'll notice the little balls are falling out of the sky, and it looks kind of silly. You can change that by changing things like the physics. So I'm going to go here to physics, and I'm going to slow them all down so they're not moving so fast. I'm going to put it at like 0. It'd help if I just wrote it. We can also turn off gravity so they won't fall. And now if we have a look, they should just sort of stay there. Alright, so now they're kind of just staying in the same spot. They obviously still have to grow because we've got birth and death rate here, but I'm just going to leave that for now. What we're going to do now is just going to have a keyframed camera rotation. So if we're going to go back to our camera tool, we're going to reset it, and then we are going to hit the stopwatch on position. Okay, and we're going to rotate our footage, have it rotated to this spot, and now we're going to make this go for 4 seconds, and we're going to just rotate this slowly. And I'm going to go a little bit under it to about there. And this is what it should look like. And now if we play that back, we have this horrible, horrible effect. But you can see how 3D works. That's pretty much the basics of 3D. If you like to play around with it more, you can. Otherwise, file, save as, and you're done.